A mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. No cause for panic. Intensifying protests in Chile force the country to cancel next month's APEC summit, at which President Trump planned to sign an interim trade deal with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. The US insists the deal is still on track. Down we go again. The US Federal Reserve cuts its benchmark interest rate for the third time this year as it bids to sustain America's economic expansion in the face of global uncertainties. Plus, on the anniversary of the Supreme Court's verdict siding with the victims, a group of South Korean lawyers files an appeal with the UN, asking that the wartime forced labour issue be resolved ASAP as Japan continues to drag its feet. So let's start with that news that after a wave of protests and riots in recent weeks, Chile's president has surprised the world by saying the South American country won't host the APEC summit scheduled for next month. The COP25 environmental conference set for December in Chile is also off. Won Jong-hwan starts us off.
The cancellation of a highly anticipated summit of world leaders fewer than 20 days out. Given the level of social unrest in his country, it appears Chilean President Sebastián Piñera was left with no choice but to pull the plug.
Our government, this has been a very difficult decision. A decision that causes a lot of pain, has resolved not to host the APEC summit that was scheduled to take place in November, nor the COP25 summit that was scheduled for the month of December. As president for the Chileans, I have to always put the problems and interests of the Chileans, their necessities and their hopes first.
Chile's decision to cancel the APEC summit and COP25 environmental conference in December comes after several weeks of violent unrest. The APEC summit, due to be hosted in Chile's capital Santiago on November 16th and 17th, was scheduled to bring together more than 20 world leaders, including South Korean President Moon Jae-in, US President Donald Trump, and Chinese President Xi Jinping. In fact, Trump and Xi were expected to meet immediately after the summit to sign a Phase 1 trade deal that could potentially end their protracted trade war. Chile, in fact, offered a conducive setting for a deal since it's relatively neutral and a place where the two leaders were going anyway. However, Chile's decision now throws into question where and when Trump and Xi will sign a trade deal. But some experts are not overly concerned. A person familiar with the talks said the cancellation has made the situation awkward but doesn't affect the progress being made. The White House later said in a statement that the event's postponement will have no impact on the timeline of the signing of the trade agreement. Just after the COP25 cancellation, the United Nations said it was currently exploring alternative hosting options for the climate summit. It said officials are working out the best way to rearrange the event.
Indications we have so far at this present moment is that Chile would continue to serve as the presidency of the 25th session of the Conference of Parties. So the sort of leadership that they've been providing in the past months will continue.
Protest over a hike in metro fares spun out of control earlier this month, prompting President Piñera to pledge sweeping social and economic reforms, a crackdown on widespread corruption, and cabinet shakeup. Riots, arson, and protest over the past couple of weeks have left at least 18 dead, led to 7,000 arrests and business losses of around $1.4 billion. Won Jong-hwan, Arirang News.
US President Donald Trump will be skipping next week's ASEAN +3 summit for the second year in a row. Instead, the White House says the most senior official from his administration who will be in Bangkok for the summit will be Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. However, President Trump is expected to attend the APEC forum in mid-November. That's if they find a new location anyway. Observers say the lack of top-level US representation in Bangkok will be significant in a region increasingly concerned over China's fast-expanding influence in Southeast Asia. Now, it was a widely anticipated move, but the US Federal Reserve has cut interest rates for the third time this year, citing the continued slowdown of the US economy. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said on Wednesday that the Fed now plans to hold rates steady for the foreseeable future, although it must be said many analysts don't really believe him. Isung Jae with more.
In a vote whose result was already baked into financial markets, the U.S. Federal Open Market Committee on Wednesday went ahead and lowered its benchmark funds rate by 25 basis points to between 1.5% to 1.75%. The cut is the third this year. Speaking to reporters, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said the central bank would hold rates steady for the foreseeable future, adding that the current level is likely to remain appropriate given the Fed's economic outlook of moderate economic growth, a strong labor market, and inflation growing at around 2%. Policymakers remained mostly optimistic over the U.S. economy, pointing to solid job gains and household spending rising at a strong pace. However, they said the rate cut was needed due to the continued slowing of the U.S. economy due to ongoing trade disputes and weak global growth. According to the U.S. Commerce Department, the U.S. economy grew 1.9% in the third quarter, falling short of the Trump administration's forecast of 3%. President Trump has been pressuring Powell throughout the year to sharply cut interest rates to take the shackles off the economy. Despite what Powell said on Wednesday, with Fed officials meeting again in 6 weeks, some analysts say they wouldn't be surprised if the Fed cut rates again in December. Isung Jae, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics saw its operating profits rise on quarter in the third quarter, although it was down quite sharply from the same period last year. According to its finalized earnings report on Thursday, the South Korean tech giant posted operating profits of some $6.7 billion in the July to September period. That's actually down 56% on year, but up nearly 18% on quarter. Sales came to around $53 billion. The company saw the on-year decline due to falling memory chip prices, but profits picked up on quarter thanks to increased sales of new gadgets. And LG Electronics says its operating profit for the third quarter jumped 4.4% to nearly $670 million. And that's actually the company's largest quarterly result in a decade. It added sales rose 1.8% on year to $13.4 billion. The local electronics maker explained its home appliance and air solution division brought in the most revenue thanks to strong sales at home and abroad. Its smartphone business, however, witnessed an almost 25% drop in sales due to weak global demand and rising marketing costs. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has sent a letter of condolence to South Korean President Moon Jae-in over the passing of his mother. According to multiple sources from South Korea's ruling party, on Wednesday the letter was delivered to the South Korean leader by Japanese ambassador to South Korea Nagamine Yasumasa when the envoy paid his respects to the deceased 92-year-old Kang Han-ok will be laid to rest today after passing away on Tuesday evening. Marking the first anniversary of a landmark ruling by South Korea's Supreme Court that called for Japanese companies to compensate Korean wartime forced laborers, a group of lawyers have filed an appeal to the United Nations asking that the issue be resolved as swiftly as possible. This came as hundreds of people also took to the streets of Seoul on Wednesday to protest against the Abe government. Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
1 year after the Supreme Court's ruling in favor of Korean wartime forced laborers during Japan's colonial rule, the victims, their families, and members of civic groups gathered again. Lee Chun-sik, who was forced to work at Japanese steel mills during Japan's colonial rule of the Korean peninsula, cried as he listened to voices of support sent by students.
You've gone through so much and now you deserve to be happy. So please don't blame yourself and be happy. August 30th, 2019, sincerely, Park Ju-won.
Thank you so much for your support. I have a lot more to say, but I can't as I'm overcome with emotion.
Yang Geum-deok, another victim, cried out, calling for Tokyo's sincere apology.
People of Nagoya Mitsubishi and Abe, we're waiting for you to sincerely apologize to the Korean people.
Despite the Supreme Court's verdict, no compensation was provided, and the Japanese government's reluctance to cooperate is delaying the process of forcing liquidation of the company's South Korea-based assets.
We've discovered Tokyo's foreign ministry has not yet delivered the documents stipulating the court order to the companies.
Members of Minbyeon, or Lawyers for a Democratic Society, said Wednesday that they have filed an appeal with the UN asking that the issue be swiftly resolved. It's the first time an appeal on the forced labor issue has been filed with the UN. The NGO also revealed its plans to continue to pressure Tokyo by launching a campaign to collect signatures from 1 million citizens to take the issue to the International Labor Organization. Marking the anniversary, protests were held in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul, as well as at other locations, condemning the Abe administration. Holding no Abe signs, many angry people took to the streets.
There was no apology to the Korean victims. Rather, the Japanese government imposed economic retaliatory measures on us this summer.
An estimated 261,000 South Koreans were forced to work for little to no pay during Japan's colonial rule of the Korean peninsula during 1910 to 1945. There is no official data on how many of them are still alive. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, Seoul is looking for ways to better utilize fintech for the future finance industry, hosting the 2019 Seoul Finance Week. Since the beginning of this week, the city held the opening ceremony of the Seoul Fintech Lab in Yeouido on Tuesday. The Seoul Fintech Lab, the largest of its kind in South Korea, will be housing 70 fintech startups and provide them with development support for up to 2 years. On Wednesday, experts discussed the trends and direction of fintech and international finance at the 9th Seoul International Finance Conference. Pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong are still going stronger than ever, really. In fact, a planned rally scheduled for tonight, which of course is Halloween, is expected to be especially tricky and hazardous as Hong Kong's anti-mask law remains in effect. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Kim Dami. So Dami, this new law is likely to be pushed to the absolute limits tonight.
Right, Mark. Hundreds of thousands of protesters still plan to wear now banned face masks on a potentially dangerous and rowdy Halloween in Hong Kong. According to local media, demonstrators will march from Victoria Park to the downtown district of Lang Kwai Fong on Thursday night. Lang Kwai Fong is a traditional spot where Halloween lovers usually gather to celebrate the day. According to the South Morning China Post, a police source said about 3,000 riot officers will be standby along with 3 water cannons in Western District. Another source said officers plan to remove protesters' masks to check their identities if they're chanting slogans instead of celebrating Halloween. But considering the Halloween festivities, Hong Kong riot police may face criticism if they don't allow Halloween costumes, including face masks. Meanwhile, Hong Kong billionaire Li Ka-shing will donate $17 million to ease pressure on restaurants after the 4-month-long demonstrations have rocked Hong Kong's economy. Almost 300 restaurants have closed down since June, and local restaurant sales have plunged nearly 40% over the same period. California continues to suffer from wildfires, including the latest one to spring up, Easy Fire, just northwest of LA. The fast-moving brush fire erupted near Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley on Wednesday morning, local time. Around 365,000 homes and businesses were without electricity after Pacific Gas and Electric shut off power to millions of homes to prevent further blazes. As a result, the National Weather Service issued its first ever extreme red flag warning for much of LA and Ventura counties. It added powerful winds of up to 130 kilometers an hour will sweep Southern California until Wednesday night. Peugeot maker PSA Group of France and Italian-American firm Fiat Chrysler Automobiles have reportedly reached a massive merger agreement. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, which reported Wednesday, citing inside sources, that the board of PSA Group has approved the deal. The deal between the two automobile groups will create a business with a combined market value of nearly $50 billion. The two groups sell a combined 9 million automobiles annually, ranking fourth in the world following Volkswagen, Toyota, and Renault-Nissan's alliance.
Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information useful for your everyday life. And today we're going to be talking about the House of BTS, a pop-up store in Seoul dedicated to the K-pop sensations. I'm happy to say we have our Kan Hyung-woo with us in the studio to tell us more. Good morning, Hyung-woo. So fill us in on this pop-up store that's causing quite the fan frenzy in what is Seoul's most famous neighborhood.
Right, Mark. So the House of BTS actually opened about 2 weeks ago on October 18th. The pop-up store is located in between Seoul's Gangnam Station on subway line number 2 and Shinmonyeon Station on line number 9. So the four-story complex is divided into two sections. The basement is the main showroom, where visitors can check out BTS-related merchandise and mark down what they want to buy in the catalog, which is given to customers in the line outside the store. Now, after finishing their order, fans can receive what they bought on the first floor. But before that, the second and third floors are designed to make fans feel as if they're in the boy band's famous music videos, with scenes recreated from their Idol and DNA videos. There is also an augmented reality booth where fans can dance with BTS.
So it's like a heaven, really, for BTS fans. The line outside seems like it's quite long, but inside it seems quite quiet and sedate. So presumably security just limit the amount of people that can come in at one time instead of just flooding the store with people. I heard that lots of people get there very early in the morning, perhaps even staying there all night to make sure they're at the front of the queue to get in, because as we saw in the video there, the line can get quite long. But also, if our viewers out there around the world want to go for themselves, is it free to enter if all you want to do is have a browse without buying anything?
Right. Anyone can get in there free of charge, as you just said. But yes, you're also right about having to play the waiting game outside the store.
Right.
I actually went there earlier this week and met one of the visitors there, and here's how they had to wait for their turn.
And we came here, we lined up at 6 in the morning exactly, stayed for 5 hours. But you know what? It's worth the wait. We're here now. This place is so amazing. Worth the wait, and I'm really having a good time.
The House of BTS is open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
So Hyung-woo, he waited in the line for 5 hours, or he spent 5 hours in the store when he got in?
He actually waited in the line for 5 hours.
Even though he arrived there at 6 a.m.?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it opens at 10 a.m.
Right.
So it's open every day except for Wednesday, but it will stay open on Christmas and New Year's Day, both of which fall on a Wednesday this year. So a member of staff working there said they only allow about 200 visitors inside the complex at one time.
Okay.
So I was also told that around 1,700 people get to go inside each day, meaning if you get in line after 3 p.m., you might not be able to see what's inside the store. So my tip would be you better get there early if you want to have the full BTS experience.
I think I'd just start queuing up from 10 p.m. the night before to have a good chance of getting in when it opens before the weather gets too cold. But it really does sound like a lot of fun for BTS fans, not only from Korea, but from around the world, of which we know there are many, many millions now. I was wondering whether you could just talk us through, why does BTS have such a worldwide appeal compared to other K-pop bands out there?
Right, so I had the same question, and experts, they have been looking at this phenomenon to try to analyze what's happening.
Yeah.
And they can say it's their music, it's their dance, or it's their whatever they're sending the message. Yeah, personalities. Yeah. But I thought the best explanations should come from the fans firsthand. Let's find out.
They deliver very positive energy, and also they give good conception to fans all around the world, and they give good influence to fans around the world.
At the first, I never liked a K-pop group, but I saw BTS. My heart is going down, and I get my heart in the floor because of BTS. That time is I'm starting to love BTS.
So whether it's about the boy band's positive messages, as we just heard, or simply love at first sight, fans from all over the world are showing a tremendous amount of support for BTS. I met a fan from India at the pop-up store and asked her if she wanted to say anything to her idol group.
Oh, they should come to India first of all, because it's really hard to go to other countries. Other than that, we love them so much, and we are already always there to support them, no matter what. And thank you for everything they do for us, like the hard work they put in for us and all that.
Well, I hope for her sake that a member of BTS is watching us right now and they take her up on the offer of going to India. They'd have a huge concert there, I'm sure. What really stands out for me from your report there, Hyung-woo, is that we saw you interview male and female fans. Just goes to show that it isn't just all about girls liking BTS, also younger people and slightly older people, and also Canada, Philippines, India, and China. So really worldwide appeal, we can see that. But thank you very much for your information today, Hyung-woo. And like you say, that store is open every day from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. But get there as early as you possibly can if you want to get into the store without waiting too long.
And it runs through January 5th.
January 5th, and then it's closed for good. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for your report today.
Always a pleasure.
Now, from BTS, which was a lot of fun, let's take a quick look at some other events that are taking place across South Korea.
Good morning. The last day of October kicked off on a cool note. Single-digit morning lows will rise to the 20s, leading to wide temperature differences of over 10 degrees Celsius in most parts of the country. Also, you will need a face mask. Central western regions will be affected by yellow dust in the morning, while toxic smog will blow in from tonight, and the dust is likely to linger into tomorrow. The thick pollution can be seen hanging over South Korea, and it will get worse in the evening, so do avoid outdoor activities. And do have a face mask, as the pollution can trigger a variety of illnesses. It's a shame because we are looking at relatively balmy temperatures and lots of sunshine throughout the day, but again, refrain from going outside today. Big temperature readings will continue to prevail across the country, while Gangwon province will see showers on Sunday and next Monday. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for views around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Thursday morning here in Seoul. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. Our next newscast is at noon Korea time in an hour and a half from now. So until then, goodbye.
'19 Overseas TV Audience Survey. Arirang TV and Gallup Korea are conducting research on viewer opinions. Your honest answers will be used for the development of Arirang TV. From now to November 30th, you can participate in this survey through our website www.arirang.com.